Well, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. We have no public hearing, but we have a presentation to make to Mr. Zelke. So, on behalf of council, we would like to thank you for your 18 years of dedication to our municipal planning committee. And we really appreciate all your input, and we don't agree with all your decisions. But
that should be.
no, I'm really, honestly, Ross, it's been great. So often in life, we never get the opportunity to thank people for all their participations in our community. And
Well, I certainly enjoyed the stay here, and maybe I'll attend some more meetings, and you never know.
well, I know that I'm sure it's like here. We always welcome the people to stay after and listen to the rest of the event, but I'm not sure, they might not allow that with you, but.
No. And I'm still under the weather, so I'm going to vacate.
Anyway, again, thank you very much.
And you are a wealth of information, an absolute wealth of information. So tell
She makes 18 years.
Well, it was only supposed to be 4, and 4 led to 18. I don't know how.
So you overstayed your welcome.
Yeah, I did.
Thanks, Ross.
for coming. Thank you.
Well,
I would walk over there, but I would.
That's okay. So, on that note, I appreciate this, and I'll vacate, but I'll return.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, Ross, Shirley, for all the stuff that you know.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the second item on our, we have a delegation from AXIA. So if you two gentlemen, whichever one wants to be the leader or the follower, or
Wants to or will? Hi guys, thank you Mayor Grant, Jim, for having me, and everyone else around the room. Certainly appreciate your time. Let me take you through a slide here. I've got a deck on my computer that mimics this. I just have some speaking notes that'll accompany that I'll be able to kind of cheat off of. So if you don't mind me when I kind of flip through over here, it's going through a very similar presentation here. So my name's David Scabar. I'm the Director of Residential Services with AXIA. Of course, we brought our fiber optic network to Vulcan, and we started lighting up customers in 2015. So oftentimes, as I was speaking with these two gentlemen at the front, they get reached into their organization at any number of times throughout the week of other communities asking them how they got fiber and what their experience has been and what they can do with it. And we certainly appreciate that time. And oftentimes when we approach these communities and they ask us to come to council meetings, not unlike this, we present them with a slide that looks a lot like this. So with fiber connectivity greater than major city centers, rural Albertans will be connected with each other in the world like never before. So with a fiber to every door in the community, that's business and residential, the connectivity is better than that I have at my office, well not my office, but at any given office in downtown Calgary. So, what does that mean for the community? Of course, having that level of sophistication from a network standpoint and that access to the markets. In 2017, we hear access to markets a lot as it pertains to pipelines. But of course, that connectivity is that opportunity that avails any given community is a great thing, right? How do we look at that? What can we look at to say, yes, this is a good opportunity, this is something that we can thrive because of? So in August of 2016, we met with a few of the people in this room, as well as a few members of the Chamber of Commerce and other key stakeholders from the community, and said, all right, what can we do to really work together to show what Vulcan has from a network standpoint, and what can we point to as success criteria? So looking at the community itself, what sort of metrics can we say, oh, well, here's something that makes Vulcan different because of this sort of infrastructure. And with fiber to the premise being a reasonably new methodology worldwide, there's nothing really that you can point to that says, all right, what is our fiber measure? So in 2016, Mr. Fath met with a third-party consultant that we commissioned to do an economic development study on the town of Vulcan. So some of you may have received a study and responded to the survey and participated in any number of conversations with our consultant, and here to show you some of those findings. So while Vulcan has been our longest serving fiber to the premise community, we're now live in 5 communities, building in 6 others, and actively looking to build in 40 new communities. Our study focused on Vulcan, where we wanted to identify the impact on businesses, residences, and the community itself. So to this point, we've had a lot of anecdotal feedback. We've spoken to a number of people in the community and obviously your neighbors and the people that you're aware of, but we say, you know, before, 3-4 years ago, you couldn't stream a TV show in Vulcan. Now there's a TV station. That's pretty cool. That's pretty compelling argument for next generation type of connectivity. But then, you know, again, you keep going down the path of these anecdotal sort of snippets of information, but we didn't really have anything objective to look at. So we interviewed a number of stakeholders in the town and looked at some objective evidence that we got from the community itself as feedback from these surveys. And this is the findings that I'll take you through here today. So, subjectively, 72% of people believe that Vulcan is a more attractive location to do business in. Now, again, subjective information tied to 72%. You don't have to go too far in rural Alberta to realize that people's perception is their reality. I grew up in small town Alberta, I grew up in Hanna, and you could walk around, you could, at any given time, you could get a measure of what's going on in town by stopping into the post office and hearing what they say about it. If the local hockey team won provincials, everyone's really happy, they're talking about the post office. If there's a big pothole on Main Street that's currently filled with gravel and has been for 6 weeks, you're going to hear about it at the post office. But if 3/4 of the town thinks it's a more positive place to do business in, that's pretty compelling evidence, and of course testament to everybody in the room for that. And subjective as that may be, you'll all be aware that 5 years year over year prior to Axia going live, there was a 2% decline year over year on the active business licenses. Since Axia's gone live, there's been a 14% year over year increase. So that's home-based business and storefronts. Which again, when you look at the denominator, 14% is a considerable number. In their own words, we got a quote from one of your residents here, David Swan. Not sure if you guys are familiar with Mr. Swan, but he runs a pretty sophisticated operation from his home. He works for an organization that's based out of London, has offices in Washington, D.C., and he operates out of Vulcan. And he says that without Axia or fiber connectivity, he would have had to move to the city. But instead, because of the bandwidth that's available to him, he's now attracting people to Vulcan. And that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, that's a good system. Perfect. All right. Now this one, our marketing team loves. And I like it, of course, from my seat. But 60% of the people say their quality of life has improved since Axia came to town. Now that sounds a little bit extreme, right? You think, geez, that's a bit out there, but all you have to do is fiddle with a poor connection or try to, do the things that you don't like doing, like paying your bills online, and when that is kind of interrupted and you're doing that on a poor connection, that's when you think, yeah, you know what? Maybe my quality of life is improved. It's not just about Netflix, but telecommuting and those sort of activities are going to improve your quality of life for sure. This one, for any of you that do stream TV shows or movies or anything like that, this one's pretty obvious. 79% have a more enjoyable entertainment experience. There's no buffering, there's no waiting, there's no load time, it's just there. And you can Netflix now, you can watch your VTV now, but that's just the entertainment side. That's not necessarily everybody's reality, but now you can participate in the whole global economy. You can participate in e-commerce, you can operate a home-based business, you can telecommute, as I said earlier. That access to the whole digital marketplace is a reality for everybody in Vulcan. Now this one's interesting for people that are kind of feeling out the network and realizing kind of what's out there. 60% of our respondents had cut the cord, whether that's to a telephone or a television service, after 1 year. So more than half the people were able to cut their cord and release that kind of lifelong burden that we've had with our incumbent telco providers. Now, this leads into this figure, which is just outstanding. By unbundling, Vulcan customers save $74 per month, every month, by unbundling, by cutting that cord. So with an Axia connection and the Internet of Things providing their television, telephone services, they're able to save $74 per month, $888 per year. And from a town standpoint, it's $120,000 after tax that stays in Vulcan. That stays in Vulcan. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it goes to Cuba. Maybe it goes to Mexico. Maybe it goes on holidays to the Yankee Stadium. But it doesn't go to Burnaby and line somebody else's pockets. Right? So now, from an Axia standpoint, that's fantastic. We want to drive that economy that way to the cloud and to the competitive marketplace that is the Internet of Things. But from our spot, that's $120,000 in Vulcan, right? And we're currently live in 5 towns. That's $600,000 right there. We're looking to be in 50 towns in 3 years. That's $6 million after tax that stays in Alberta when you don't have to look too far to see that not a lot of people are investing in our province. And $6 million at $54 oil that's compelling. Again, going back to people's perception of their own community, where they live, where they do business, where they work, play, 77% believe their town is more attractive to new potential residents. Again, that's new. That may be 6 new families, which may mean another volunteer firefighter or another nurse at the clinic. The knock-on benefit of attracting new people to the town is, it's a challenge across Alberta and rural communities. Again, ties in here as well. 53% agree young people are more likely to stay or move back. The more young people we have, the more people we have going to our schools. Again, representing your community in that capacity is a big deal. So that's it for the objective component. Looking subjectively now at the community interviews that again, our third-party consultant met with 12 stakeholders from the community, people you're probably familiar with. I've hidden the quoted contents, but time available, we can take a look at them. But ultimately, 4 key themes emerged from them. One being the tangible benefits, things we've already seen, the potential that is out there, the town itself's ability to exploit that potential. Exploit's maybe a little bit of an aggressive word, but realize, and an Axia presence or lack thereof. People recognizing that Axia is a little bit in a non-traditional sense, does it without its presence. We'll get into that. So the tangible benefits, both residents and businesses have moved to Vulcan as a direct result of Axia's fiber. We've seen that with the business licenses. Some residents have been able to stay in Vulcan versus being forced to cities for work. Like I had David Swan's testimonial there. And both businesses and residents have benefited from the service enabled by fiber while also saving money. It's interesting, some of the respondents that we've seen had saved in the hundreds of dollars by running their business completely from the cloud. That's eliminating the server closet and the IT people that have to maintain it. Just trusting the Amazons of the world who do it pretty well and on a scalable fashion to operate their web services, and they can just realize that with that high-performing connectivity. But on a residential side, some people spend more money. You cut the cord to your TV package, but now all of a sudden you're buying all these movies off iTunes, you're subscribing to the NHL Game Center or the NFL Sunday ticket and all those things. The entertainment possibilities are now larger, so at least you're buying what you want and going against the grain in terms of the telcos and cable cos who've done a great job historically of telling us what we want to watch. No two of you would watch identically the same programming, But by bundling it up into their $200 a month kind of bundle, just so you have the opportunity to buy HBO year over year, you know, those bills add up, of course. So those are the tangible benefits. And then the themes in terms of the further potential here. My slide's a little bit different. So there's a great deal of further potential for the community to take advantage of that asset. So everyone agrees the potential for impact for Vulcan is bigger than what's been realized so far. You know, again, as the infrastructure gets in place, what are the things that can be realized? You know, 2 years ago to today, the whole global Internet of Things has changed drastically, let alone what's going to be for the next 2 years or the 10 that follow that. And then many believe the town should be able to attract more corporations to set up, thanks to fiber, low tax, and proximity to the two major centers. You know, again, access to markets. I was speaking with Lyle Magnuson, and he said, you know, we're right, almost dead center between Calgary and Lethbridge. We have a fantastic highway going both directions. What's to be a big differentiator for Vulcan, then it would be either in Lethbridge, surrounding Lethbridge, in Calgary, surrounding Calgary. You know, the tax base, the ability to grow up local or attract local business to smaller centers is a big deal. And then town leadership. Now, of course, we have elected officials and administrators in the room. That's one component of leadership. I know there's a number of groups in the community that take another element of leadership, but the key decision makers and the key stakeholders in the community can really sink their teeth into a lot of these things. So the town has the opportunity to do more to, again, realize the potential for fiber. So most people suggested that municipal leadership don't know how to leverage the fiber, and they need to advertise and promote it more. Municipality leadership needs external help with sales and marketing to maximize the opportunity, and Vulcan needs to act fast to make the most of their fiber advantage before it's more common. Now, that's not new information. We had a very similar conversation this summer, and we're not the experts there. We're not saying that we are the people to really take this thing and make it something that it's not, but it's definitely the springboard for it. You know, if you're looking at being a technologically advanced community, you don't look at how cool is the internet, but what can you do with that differential infrastructure. And again, with some of the people in this room, we discussed, well, what is it? What are some of the perceived barriers? From an Axia standpoint, outside of the results of the study, you know, we're not looking for the elected officials in this room to wave a flag that says Axia, but I think it's within your best interest to wave a flag that says you have differential infrastructure. And that might be, you know, you've got a cool solar facility, and you're attracting new business, and you've got this springboard that could be a boon to the local economy. What could that look like? Right? Again, we've got a really wide, fast superhighway here. What sort of vehicles do you want to drive on it to differentiate yourself amongst, whether it's your county, the province, the country? You know? So that's the feedback from the study. I've got quotes in the actual study I've sent to you, Kim, as well. So happy to share it with anyone in the room for sure. That's the kind of the bulleted version of it. Now, in terms of where feedback that we've heard is our presence. So you're all aware that when we first launched in the community, we had a storefront and a physical presence in the community. And since leaving that presence and going on to future communities, people have said that the effect of removing that presence has been impediment to people even going as far as saying, well, when we took our storefront down, they felt that we pulled the fiber. Going as far as saying, well, when we took our storefront down, they felt that we pulled the fiber out and took it with us as well, which that fiber is going to outlast my days on this earth, let alone at my organization. So it's not going anywhere, but that's important feedback for us. How can we continue to be part of the community and neighbors that continue to do business in the community? So suggestions for collaboration, how we can continue to help foster that neighborly professional business relationship. Whether it's communication channels, we've got that community skating day on Sunday. We're doing a food drive and hoping to keep the food donations rolling well after Christmas. Whether it's ongoing advocacy and with signage, tourism, websites, social media engagement, that sort of thing. Community fundraising opportunities. We've got a number of those that we can help to kind of deploy within the town. And connectivity-based initiatives. Aging in place is a big one. In 2017, there's an era or a generation that's really grown up here, had their children here, and hopefully will stay here as long as possible before, is it High River, is it South Calgary, where people sort of graduate to in that realm, connected citizens and senior population, helping them connect with the next generation. And Fibre Town Abundance, so we kind of market ourselves as being neighborly, and we want to put that back to the community as well, as saying, you're not an Axia town. We are a Vulcan partner. Right? We don't want to push ourselves onto you. So what does that look like in a professional lens? Lastly, I know we're kind of up against it here with time, but again, there's a number of organizations within Vulcan in my time with the organization. Of course, there's VBIT, the Chamber, the Vulcan Business Development Society, and the town itself. So how do we collaborate? Who do we best align within the organizations to help to foster that relationship? I know when VBIT got going, their goal was to reposition Vulcan as the most technologically advanced town in the country and really lead the way, create the path for rural Canada. Now, we're of the mindset that you've got this really great springboard. Now, how can we help to realize that? Whether it's, again, maybe it's conferences, maybe it's working remotely, maybe it's any number of things. How do we collaborate in that lens? Now, the Chamber, of course, their mission is to promote economic activity to benefit all the residents of the town and the region. How can we help to do that? EBDS, of course, same idea. And then the town, you've got your own set of complex challenges for sure, but there's 4 organizations right there that all with the underlying sentiment of how can we really band together as a community and make it an attractive place to do business, make it an attractive place to bring new residents and new businesses to town and to really thrive as a community. So, thoughts, next steps? Might not necessarily be the place to bring it up right now, but in terms of action items, I'd love to get your thoughts on how we can continue to collaborate and work together for the town's benefit.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing that. That's kind of nice to know the results of this impact study that you had done and how many people participated and how it works. So appreciate that. And like Kim and I were talking about, you were talking earlier, a lot of us have had phone calls from different municipalities asking how it went and other communities that have tied on what we thought of it. So I sit on a committee that has some people from lots of different groups, or lots of communities, and there's always a discussion which way to go and how it's affected our community. So appreciate you bringing that information to us. So if we have an opportunity to do it again, or if somebody asks, at least we have some of the facts that were presented. But
what percentage of the town is hooked up to Axia?
About a third.
Okay.
Yeah. Where would you feel if I was to flip the switch on you? What would you guess would be the case? What would you guess? Would that be indicative of what your feel would be in town?
I wasn't really sure. I
Yeah.
don't know how you done, but, and I suppose the majority of the rest there'd be more hooked to tell us than there would be.
That's some of the sentiment we get, yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of the devil you know, the devil you don't know, right? Again, my parents in Hannah, they've been paying about $185 to $215 a month for 2 decades to get their TV, phone, and internet. And
I'm just not sure how much I would say personally, because I still like major network TV, and that doesn't come off internet too well.
Well, we've got good options for you. You could look no further than your CAO there. There's live TV app capability now that wasn't around, even as recently as a year ago. And it's only moving more and more that way with the cloud-based technology. So it's a Canadian company that offers their TV services from the cloud, and their packages start at $17 a month. Their full suite of content is $45 a month. So you tag that on an Axia connection, you're $104 a month, and $4 phone, now you're $108 a month for TV, phone, and internet, right? And so that's not something where I'm saying rah Axia. It's anybody in the community that's on a fixed income that doesn't realize these cost savings exist. That money now stays in Vulcan. And maybe it goes to the Grateful Cup or Wolf's Hardware or First Street Foods. It could go anywhere. It's not going to Burnaby anymore, right? And that's a big deal for the local tax base, in my opinion.
I think the philosophy, or sorry, John, but I think a lot of the philosophy too, though, it's just the same thing with, lots of people are still tied up to ATCO Gas because they do have a presence in your community, or you got a Fortis guy that lives not a mile out of town, or so sometimes you have loyalty to the trade names or the people because we still have a TELUS employee that drives. You see his truck driving down the street. Not very often do we see an Axia truck driving down the street, or especially when you have third party or fourth party contractors doing installs and stuff like that. So I think sometimes that's a bit of an issue with some people because they don't see that presence, like you said. When you lost the storefront or you moved the storefront, or there's the flag's not flying. Sometimes it is a concern because the people don't see it. So again, like you had said earlier, did you roll up the cable and take it along with you, or it's just a transition to the next community, and you move your promotional stuff to the next community, which is understandable, but I think a lot of the people don't understand that.
Yeah, and you know what? We're working on a number of things to address just that, whether it's a local community group or someone to help with some of the technological stuff, because whether it's a high school student or a 4-H club or something like that, they might not know how to work exactly that tablet. They probably have a better idea than me. So if they can come over to your house and we can throw some funds their way for their initiative to help, those that are less technologically advanced, those are opportunities that, can help us to kind of decrease that barrier for adoption and to continue to have a presence, whether it's in the local arena or on Main Street or on your movie nights, things like that. There's a lot of opportunity for collaboration there, because to the extent that you guys keep getting phone calls and again, we certainly appreciate it. We're out there telling the story about David Swan, EVP at the Defense and Intelligence Group, and Sandra Scott, the CEO of ETV, and Chantel Koch, who runs an entire restaurant off of a cloud-based service, right? So we're kind of doing the same thing, and to the extent that we can, I think it's of course beneficial to do that, because rural Alberta is, when oil's $37 a barrel, it's the agriculture and tourism that are keeping our province going, right? I think that's really important. Great, let's follow up from there and take it to the next level.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Mayor. Well, appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and inform us of what the study did and how the results of it. So it's nice to see you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Okay, moving on to additions to the agenda. We have none. Okay. Again, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Great meeting.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so no additions to the agenda. Somebody wish to move the agenda as presented? Rick? Any question on Rick's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay. Okay, the previous council meeting of January 9th. Any questions on the minutes? If not, somebody wish to move them? Sue, thank you. Any question on Sue's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Moving on to the committee of the whole meeting, which was prior to it. Any question on any of the minutes? Hearing none, does somebody wish to move them? Okay, thank you, Paul. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving on to unfinished business. We have Bonnie and Ron Markert here to speak on this proposal for the Lions Club street closure. There was an email sent today, so none of us have had an opportunity to read it yet, so this is what it's all about. Okay, so did you want to add something to it, either one of you two, or?
Sure. I can't remember what I said. I was trying to remember about this one day. I think when we originally came, Bonnie came and asked, we didn't realize how big things were getting to be, and so we're putting in a pretty good sized tent. I think the one we're looking at is 60 by 90 tent that we're going to put up. We've originally thought that we were going to have stakes to keep it in the ground. Found out that we don't have to, we can use weights to keep it down, so we don't have to worry about affecting the pavement. We just about have to come in on Friday to get it built and then get all the stage in and chairs in on Friday, because we're going to start 7, 8 o'clock Saturday morning. We're going to be going all day long, or at least until I think about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So, and we would like to participate a little bit too in some of the activities that are going on. And so we'll need Sunday. I think I put in there that we would want to close Monday. I don't think we do. I think we can be done on Sunday. So by the time we go in, we take all the tables out on the stage and take the tent down. We should be out of there by Sunday night. But we need those 2 days on either side to get it up and get it run, I guess you might say, and then to turn around and take it down again. Like I say, we're going to be busy all day. We're going to start off with a breakfast. We're going to get into, we think we're going to have lots of auctions to auction off. We're going to have a live auction and a silent auction. Part of the reason we want the tent is not just for the auction and also for the barbecue, but for the silent auction. We're going to start, I think, the silent auction early in the day. We're hoping that we'll have so many items that we just will not be able to get it through in a live auction. So I guess the more entertaining items maybe will be auctioned off, and the other ones will be silent auction off. And so, like I say, we're going to start silent auction at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and we want to have that done by supper time. And we're going to have a barbecue about 4 o'clock, 4 to 6, and then the live auction will be from 6 till 8:30, 9 o'clock, somewhere in there. And so we need the tent all day long. Other activities, we're going to have activities for all the kids to do, keep busy all day long. One of the things we're going to do also is we're going to have a Vulcan Star Trek Celebrity Challenge. And so what that means is we want people that are celebrities in Vulcan, and that would be you people, town council, Lions, Kinsman, county council, just to name a few, to have a challenge that will be similar to Survivor challenges that you see on TV. They're all focused around water usually, so we're focused around the pool. That's what we're trying to raise money for, so that's what we want to create awareness of. And I think, as I said also in there, it's more than just a pool in that block. There's all kinds of things going on. We have the roller park, the pool, and the barbecue, the beach volleyballs, a lot of things going on there, and we just want to emphasize that to everybody, to let them see all the benefits of that whole block. And hopefully they'll want to spend more money on auction tonight. So that's what it's all about. So, any questions?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm concerned about safety. You're not gonna secure that thing to the ground, you're just gonna put weights on it. Has sprung structure said that it's safe?
Yes.
Insurance is gonna cover it? Cause we do get some wicked winds here.
We'll carry insurance.
Just, you know, makes me nervous. I mean, I'm all for it. I love the idea, and this now explains why. Cause when I first read the letter, I went, no way, there's nothing here that says why. This brings it to light, but the safety aspect is what makes me nervous.
John, yeah.
What do you need the access to, you know, like the First Street and Fifth and Sixth Avenue for? What do you need them for?
Okay, we only need Main Street for those 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The other streets we'll need just for Saturday. And we haven't finalized everything yet. For example, one thing that we're talking about doing with one of the other clubs is having a street hockey tournament for the kids. So that'll take up one street. 10 will be in the other street. We intend to have other activities for the young kids in another street. So that leaves us to one, and the way we're going, I can see how we can use them all come that day. But, you know, if we decide that we can't use them, we'll let you know, and long before July the 1st, so that you don't have to.
Now, with closing those streets, are you closing the intersections? I'm just thinking of flow of traffic, or is it just the center parts of those streets? Like, you know, where my house is with the thing, is that intersection gonna be closed because it's on First Street and Fifth? The actual intersection of that one. If they can come and turn that corner and you're just using the main part in front of my garage area, that doesn't seem to be much of a problem. But if you close off, could be up to 4 intersections, which could be congested.
We can work with that, I think.
Because it is a bit of concern, like to get up into the Chinook Crescent. You know, if you close John's intersection and then the next intersection up, you know, on 6th, then they end up having to go 2 blocks up to try and get in. I know when we do the Tin Man, you know, there is always a degree of working through that, of how they close the intersection so that there still is a bit of traffic flow, because, you know, most people are, you know, creature of habit, and all of a sudden you change my route and now my habit has been changed. But if you give them a good alternate, then it's not as offensive and you know.
I am supportive too, I'm just worried about the flow of traffic on July 1st.
It's gonna be a busy day. We've already talked about that. I think we're gonna put in buses or some mode of transportation, because we know that there'll be a lot of elderly people. They'll have to walk quite a distance, I would think, to get to that block. If the town's as busy as we think it's gonna be. And so we're gonna have some kind of transportation to get those people to the center block.
Yeah, there is Kim brought up earlier, there is the graduations on Friday night, and then
Impacting Main Street
so
traffic.
that'll impact.
How we do that.
And then the other one is there is a wedding that weekend too, so, or 2 weddings that weekend? Oh, okay. Which will-
Wedding?
Which will impact that weekend. Plus some of us made a commitment to Banff.
To Banff, what's in Banff, Don?
The
Our float in
our
Canada
float was- we
Day
were
Parade.
requested to send our float to Banff, so I'm not sure exactly how many people it's gonna affect on that too, but. You know, again, you know, I personally, I think like John said too, we really appreciate that you guys are doing this, because it's towards the swimming pool itself. So I think that, you know, it's the swimming pool itself. So I think that, you know, it's a great opportunity for our community, and if it wasn't for our service clubs doing things like this, you know, our community wouldn't exist. It's just the logistics, and I think that Kim's suggestion is that we allow administration to sit down and work through the you know, finer points of how can we do this, and can we, you know, so to not impact as many people as possible, but yet get the biggest bang for our buck.
Have you done a ballpark figure or a guess of what you would hope to raise on that weekend, or can I ask that?
It's
Excellent.
you know, all I'm gonna say is that, you know, we looked at the 100th anniversary that we put on here in 13, and we did quite well at that event. Will we be as good as that? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's huge, so.
Well,
But like I said, I'm just sitting there thinking, and I think we could, for sure, we could cut out one street if it helps the flow. But to cut out two,
No, I'm not even, like, the main streets, as long as they got, like, one lane to turn on, I would be fine. You know, that kind of
Cut the
thing.
so when they come down Main Street, they can turn and go left if they.
yeah.
No, coming on Main Street, if they can turn left, fine. They can't turn right, we're closing that, but they can go somewhere. So if they're coming past Lyle Magnuson's, well, they can turn in front of my house and go the other way.
Yeah.
I'm still saying those three main center portions of those streets can be closed. But I don't want somebody coming up, oh crap, it's blocked, now they gotta do a back up and a U-turn in the middle of the street to go back a block.
You know, so the streets or the avenues, those two avenues around Center Street, or, and I think that, you know, again, we could, if this works, we could allow you guys to sit down and try and do some
Yeah.
penciling, how we could do it to make it so that, you know, there is flow for traffic, and yet it doesn't affect, and yet gain the most amount of bang for your buck. You know, whether, you know, maybe there's a opportunity not to have the tent on Main Street, have it on one of the avenues. Does that work, you know, I mean, so I mean, is there a way that we can,
The streets and avenues are pretty narrow, I think, for the tent that they want.
yeah,
You're gonna need the Main Street to have some movement around the tent.
I measured them off the other day, I just paced them off, and I think most side streets they're lucky if they're 40 feet wide, and Main Street is like 75, I think. And so we need that 60 feet wide.
yeah.
So we're hooked. If we could get it into one of the side streets, I'd say, that's great, but we just can't squeeze it in. And I believe we're gonna need the space.
Well, I think, personally, you know, I think that,
Well, I think if you work it out,
We could-
the
oh, yeah.
logistics, so
Sure,
that the
logistics.
ambulance can get through if it has to, because Peter Dawson Lodge is up there, anything happening at the pool, and that, you know, if you've worked it out with the administration and the town crew
Like-
to see how to
yeah,
get through.
so Kim was just saying, you know, is there a way that, you know, like our motion that was presented to us is for, you know, administration to work with you folks and try and come up and then bring it back, and then of course then we have to approve it, and then we have to, you know, take it back to the public and make sure that advertise it, and the people that, you know, when we do a street closure, we always try and allow the, you know, people that live along that block that's gonna be affected on it, you know, an opportunity to understand what's going on, and, you know, and that's partly why when we talk about, you know, one of the avenues, is there, because there's less impact, you know, that affects John, so, big deal.
Not only that, but John's neighbor, that's the only access he has to his garage.
No, I know, but I mean,
Fine, but I do that for Tin Man and everything,
Yeah.
I park somewhere else. but-
And so does he.
So I'm not worried about the one day.
That's just
so,
what we
but I
have
mean,
to deal with.
it's just something that I think that if we can allow, you know, the, 2 or 3 groups to try and work it out, and then, you know, up until the 60 by 90 tent, we, you know, not maybe we could fit you on an avenue, but, like I said, it might be a little more difficult, but, you know, is there ways around to make it work for everybody? Yeah, and I think there is, and I think that it's a great opportunity for us as a community, and so.
I think with what they presented though, with the time frame that they need for that tent, a 60-foot wide building, and you wanna buy the main block, you're gonna need Main Street. I don't see a way around it that can't be done.
And you're really talking about the avenues for July 1st.
Yes.
Yeah, so like, it's just for that one day that we're talking about for this big celebration.
But Main Street for the 3 days.
Yeah, Main Street for the 3 days, yeah.
And yeah, there is grad the night before that I don't, you know, on the 30th or whatever, but I don't think that's gonna impact Main Street that much.
No, it's just a,
Just
just a flow.
visitors traffic down Center Street.
You know, so they can get around and
But there is that church that has
Services Sunday morning.
services on Sunday, right? So
Yeah.
it's something we have to be considerate of.
But then they have on the Sunday, which is the second, right? They have
The whole
yeah, the only thing is just right in front of the church, they won't
Yeah.
have, but they have
Park up
no
Sixth.
parking other
They
places.
park up and down Sixth, so.
And we can try to work with the
Put the
tent
tent down to the far end.
east, so that we keep that open as much. How long is a street? Like
400.
That one's an extra.
It's even
Yeah,
farther,
yeah, that was
so it's probably 500 feet.
So we can keep the tent on the east side, if you wanna call it that, I guess.
But you're gonna still want your tent to be able to kind of make it a nice flow into the whole center park area. So I don't wanna have you moving the tent and it kind of affects what you wanna do with the rest of the place either.
Okay, well, I think it's
People
very
understand.
doable and,
I can come in and sit down with you
and yeah,
Kim
and Bonnie
and-
and, you know, draw it up on a piece of paper and play around with it and see how you can manipulate it and then take it back to your group. And the nice thing about it, you brought it soon enough in the year that we have an opportunity to, you know, the public that live along that street to understand their philosophy and not just show up the day before and just say, sorry.
Ooh, there's a.
You know, type thing, you know, it gives us lots of time to do it properly, and so we appreciate that, and, so, you know, it's great to see, so, thank you very much. Any other questions, sorry?
No, I guess we're ready to make a motion.
Okay.
That the street closures of Vulcan Lions Club be approved, and that administration is requested to work with the Lions Club to work out logistics or something.
Do you want to do it the other way where we work out the logistics and bring it back to council for final approval? It's,
I think we could do the approval right now.
I think we're all supportive of it.
I just want the logistics done, and once you get that set up, that's fine,
okay.
but I don't want it to be coming back and forth.
No.
If we approve the closure, then you work out the logistics with them, that makes it work. You've heard our concerns, so.
Okay.
We'll
So everybody heard John's motion? Any question on John's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, Ron, for taking the time, and Bonnie for coming in to answer some questions, and so.
Thank you, and we've given you notice, so you're gonna have to get in shape for your celebrity challenge on July the 1st, so
We'll have to make it later
It'll
enough
have
in
to
the
be in
day,
the evening.
so that some of us can make it back for it.
It stays light until 11. So.
That's pretty nice though.
I know.
Banff is pretty nice, and we don't know what they want us to, they just asked us to be in the parade, but they want us to be there for other, they don't want us to bring the float home right away, they want us to leave it there for picture, from what I've been told.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Ron. Thanks, Bonnie.
Rick, at that point, not everybody has to stay there.
That's true, just two of us.
Okay, so, that kind of handles that, it was great to get some more information on it, so we'll move on to, no financial statements at the moment, correspondence, there's a couple items there for you. Sorry, just one, any questions on that?
I'll move to be accepted. Information.
John needs information. Any question on John's motion?
Do we put anything on our website like we usually do for different things saying we support that?
Yeah, do we want to proclaim it? John moved it for information. I'll call the question on the, moving this as an information item. If we- So, any question on John's motion for information? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, now, Lauren, you had a question on, do we want?
Well, I was just wondering if we shouldn't be pretty much proclaiming other things, and I think our county and town is fairly reliant on
Okay,
oil and gas,
so do you want to make that motion?
Sure. that we do
Proclaim the,
proclaim it in our usual fashion.
February 18th. And it's terribly important to the county.
But a lot of people live in town, working.
well, especially they did, so, you know,
Yeah.
in the oil industry, so it's just another supporting it, that's for sure. Okay, so Lauren's motion is to make this proclamation and support it the way we always do our other ones. Any question on that? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to presentations of reports. This one here is the one that had two Any question on either one or the other? Okay, moving on to mayors and reads. Okay.
Were you there, Tom?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, but they didn't say you weren't either.
No, I wasn't there. Okay, moving on, I guess we'll start with you, Lorna, but you just got back, I assume you probably haven't had an opportunity to any meetings
No,
yet, or-
everything's been canceled.
Rick?
I've had none, but I just let you folks know that as of Friday, there's no access to the advocate anymore for the public. The office is closed. Looking only.
So the business,
The advocate,
the business will be closed itself?
the
the
front
building?
door is.
Yeah?
The reporters, the editor, and sales is through appointment only,
Oh,
so. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
you know, papers aren't doing very well,
No, they're not, but
and
I hate to see small town paper go away.
Oh, it's-
Anywhere.
it is sad to see, that's for sure. So.
They're gonna run a lot of it out of Nanton, which I think is a mistake, but that's just me. It has to my wife left her job, so. But yeah, so you don't know what you do now.
Okay,
All my meetings are all starting this week.
yeah, okay, so, thank you. Moving on to Rick, I mean, to Paul, sorry. I was just like that.
And so it starts the new year.
That's okay,
I
Laura.
got you right the first time. Okay, Paul, sorry.
Just some highlights from the library one, the other night. Rise and Shine, every Tuesday is going to work in conjunction with the free libraries. Thank you. Brenda Burns will be running an 8-week course, Compass for the Caregivers. So those who are dealing with older people, so on and so forth. I don't have a time on that. That might be of interest. The energy efficiency audit, we can't do it on the building because the town owns the building. And we can't do it on municipal buildings. And the golf course, I found out that you weren't getting the minutes, which you are now. They've passed the 2017 budget. They're still unsure on the impact of minimum wage and fuel increases because of carbon tax. They should end up with a slight surplus this year. And they've got their draft policies just about ready to go. And for those with kids, I guess that leaves us out, doesn't it? The junior program is going to be modified somewhat, so that it's not a babysitting program.
And don't say without kids.
Yeah,
Because we all have to
everybody
volunteer
here's
there.
got kids.
No, but we volunteer there anyhow, even if you don't have little kids.
You have grandkids and
No, but we volunteer too.
Okay, Paul, we donated a Blu-ray DVD player, and we went to the library.
yes,
Nobody seems to know how to hook it up there.
Okay.
I tried, and I can't.
okay. John Buckmaster from Palliser, I think is probably gonna have a look at it.
Okay.
He's the
I
tech
know
support.
that the sound system you got there is tied to, web camera and stuff like that, but I don't know how to hook the DVD.
I think he can do that, but we're gonna have to wait until Connie gets back and,
I asked Connie, and she said, I don't know.
no, but she will get a hold of Buckmaster. She's on holidays right now.
Okay.
And again, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Paul? Okay, we'll move on to Sue.
I don't have anything, my two of my meetings got canceled, and I was away from one, there's a meeting coming up this week with the Health Foundation, but so I don't have anything.
Okay, John?
So NBC was canceled, and we have 2 meetings at Fresca and Water next week.
Mr.
Just a couple quick words. I've been working on the local improvement plans. VS used to return from holiday, so he and BSCI are meeting this week to look at the 200 block and see if there's any efficiencies that they can find in actually getting away from the 5-year plan quote to get more to a budget quote, so we can get our numbers a little bit closer. And of course, policy reviews pretty much taking a bunch of our time. Justin wanted to bring up for council that he has been trying to contact the insurance company on the Curry residents and is starting the paperwork on trying to get them to take some action based on a community standard standpoint. So we're starting that process, but that involves giving them a letter, giving them a time frame to move things forward. So just wanted me to bring that up, and that's where we're at right now.
Okay, any questions for Ken? And I have none either. Again, like John said, and some of you said, I've got meetings this week. I did meet with the, on the hospital renovations the other day. And are you going tomorrow?
Pardon me?
Are you going tomorrow?
No,
Oh.
I only go to the main ones, I guess, because.
No, are you going to that meeting, one in Calgary tomorrow? I thought you said that you were back for it, but maybe, I'll talk to you then. Okay, anyway. So that's about all I went to, so it's been pretty quiet last couple of weeks too, so. Okay, somebody wish to move Paul's report on top. Did you want to do that one? Sure. So Paul moves the presentations and the minutes of verbal of the boards for any comment? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay. For information. So, okay, we're moving on to the policies. Like Kim says, we're trying to bring up policies every week, every month. So we have 8 policies and 1 bylaw. So we'll just go through them. If there's any questions on any of them, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to voice your concerns or questions. The first one is on the dog licensing procedure and fees.
I have a question. Did I misunderstand you when we discussed this and you said this is gonna have some bearing on fostering?
No, changing that would be done through a bylaw. This is just for the purposes of licensing and applying the fee to.
Okay, because I read this thing and I went,
Yeah.
it's not there.
This amalgam, we had 2 policies. One had a procedure and the other one had the fees. Of course, we've taken the fees and put it to the fees bylaw. So this just basically incorporated those 2,
Okay.
took them out of the financial portion of our policies and moved them to the bylaw portion.
Is there any feeling to adding cat to this as well, based on our presentation last?
I would love cats to be added to it, John, but we'll get crucified. We did last time.
So we get crucified.
And the logistics and the cost, I don't know how we could actually do it,
Do what?
Licensing cats.
licensing cats and taking care of, it's not the licensing part, it's the aftercare part. Taking care of the bylaws.
Who captures those?
It's the same,
Yeah.
it's the same as a cat and a dog. A dog's gotta get caught off property, a cat's gotta get caught off property. What this allows then is we do have cat traps around town, so I catch the cat, it doesn't have a tag. If people are doing that right now and they see no tag, they drive it 30 miles away or do something else with it, and that's not proper. But if it has a tag, now I can deliver it to the town, they can name a licensed cat or a licensed dog.
Of taking care of that later. People in town,
Or a licensed dog.
of taking care of that later. People in care of that later. People in town, the cats have been going, like, we all know, it's a problem. Justin could be overrun with cats chasing after owner
Well, you
and
definitely,
not
well, you
being
can
able
chase the
to.
owners, but after a certain time, the owner's paying $50 every time their cat's loose and caught in somebody else's yard.
I'll let Kim talk to
The
you.
transition goes from people capturing the cats on their own to calling the town office and saying, there's a cat out, you need to do something because you have a licensing program in place. And then it becomes something that you have to prepare for. is
There
if
are
council
numerous-
supports that, you do
But
have
it's
to
not
have
like
the
we're
staff.
suggesting something that's not done in other towns.
But are you willing to put the staff in place to capture cats?
Yeah.
That's the big
That's the
question.
killer.
I don't see it being that big a hardship. I don't.
I don't think we
But
need
that's not this fault.
staff doing most of the capturing.
Maybe
It'll
not
be Rick
initially.
or John or Lorna or whomever.
So we leave it as is. I catch it, guess it's kind of up to, where someone catches it, it's up to them to decide what they're gonna do with this cat that has
So-
no tag.
This one's for the dogs. Do we want to bring back, request the administration to bring back one for cats?
I think we should also talk to Heaven Can Wait tomorrow and say, how does this dovetail with what you people want to do?
But I don't think this dog licensing procedure bylaw will affect Heaven Can Wait or dogs.
No, I'm
I mean-
referring to the cat.
But this doesn't, all it would be is dog/cat, be the same kind of thing. You wouldn't have to change anything on file.
Let's get a bit more information from
You can
Heaven
bring
Can
it back,
Wait.
we can do this one and bring back the cat one after, that's fine if you want.
So if,
I am,
okay, so we'll deal with this dog one right at the moment then, and.
where I'm living, I deal with a lot of cats every bloody day. Sorry for the language.
I don't have any mice in my house either, so I like them.
Okay, so do we would have somebody to move this
I'll
one?
move this one, get it
Okay,
going.
so Paul moves it. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Now, do you want, before we move on to the next one, do you want administration to just add it to the agenda? Or do you wanna bring it up on another agenda another time?
I think we should do a bit more research, such as Heaven Can Wait.
Direct administration to
Okay, so
research
somebody
cat
wish to,
bylaw.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
somebody make a motion?
I'll do it.
Okay, so Rick moves,
Because we have a pet bylaws for the number of pets, we don't need to change that, it would just be the licensing.
okay. Okay, so Rick moves that we look into administration,
look
look
into
into.
cat licensing.
Okay, cat licensing. Any question on Rick's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Great, okay, we're gonna move on to 10.2, which is the purchasing and tendering. Any
What was
questions?
changed?
Very little, just the structure.
I went back to build a house for landlord.
Yes, and the majority of these is putting them to the new format and actually numbering them so that it corresponds with the new, so that they can be looked up
So moved.
easier.
What's our mandatory, where we have to go to that Canada West protocol or whatever it is?
70,000.
70,000? Okay. And that doesn't have to fit into this?
No, it's legislated, we have to, it's just.
Okay, so Rick moved this, any question on Rick's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, signing authority. Again, what Kim said is that we're just changing the format and really virtually nothing changing.
This one, we did add meeting minutes and bylaws.
Oh, correct, I apologize, that's right. We've been signing them for a long period of time, but
Yes. But the purpose of putting it to a policy is if council made a decision that they wanted, they could do this through policy where the administrator doesn't sign or the mayor doesn't sign. Or so if you want your minutes to be signed by if it's a financial meeting, you want those minutes to be signed by your financial officer, you can do that, or vice versa. That was the reason why they were added, and that was basically just done on the research of looking through everyone else's and yeah, the feedback I got is it covers councils,
okay, any question on this one? Somebody wish to move it? Okay, Rick moved, Paul moves it.
I wrote Paul.
So did I.
Is that a forward slash?
I'll see if you guys are awake. Okay, the question on
Can I
Paul's
ask
motion.
a question back on that one? We got rid of the section on the source of goods and services shall be, and we had a 1 to 6 thing. That's gone.
Pardon me?
On F1, I know it's passed, but I just caught my eye now. Where other factors are equal, the source of goods or services shall be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
That's not in the new one?
It's in,
Yeah.
under ABC, that's the formatting change to the ABC. Sorry, I'll just go back here.
That's there, but that's a different one, and I don't see it in the new one.
Yeah, it's under 3,
It's under
location of
3
source,
at the bottom right there,
3.1.
3.1.
One.
It just doesn't have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in it.
Town, county,
Oh,
Alberta.
there it is,
Canada.
sorry.
Right at the
I
bottom.
just skipped it when I did it. Fine, thank you. My fault.
Okay, so we're on to 10.3, amendment to F03, signing authority, moved by Paul. Any question on Paul's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you, Paul. Okay, payment of accounts.
The only changes to this one were the, which is why you had to pass the other ones first, were the policy F1 and
Just the old.
policy F3,
Yeah.
just to bring them in line. And the wording is exactly the same through the entire policy.
So move.
Okay, so Lorna moves it. Any question on Lorna's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, F05, time grants to organizations, one-time grants to organizations. Let's speak tonight.
And just structural, content is the same.
And this is one we just kind of implemented last year.
Yes, you did. In 2014,
Seems
kind of
like
last
it's-
year.
That's pretty
It was the end of 2014.
We can do this together.
Okay,
This one is this year.
Sue moves this one. Any question on Sue's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving on to the NSF fees.
We changed this so that it wasn't just checks. It used to be just checks, and because we charge a non-sufficient fund for pre-authorized tax payments, things like that, that aren't their EFTs now, so this just covers it as any transaction that comes back with non-sufficient funds, we will charge.
So move.
Okay, Rick moves. Any question on Rick's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, capital costs.
This one was, the only change was taking and putting Webster Dictionary version of capital costs in, because it wasn't stipulated in the very first one, but the structure of it stays the same. And these policies were put in place when the tangible capital assets were mandated by the province, so
They're not-
everybody kind of needed to define what their capital assets were.
Lorna moves it. Any question on Lorna's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried.
So the next
That
one,
one's a tangible assets.
the next one is the tangible asset one, and I didn't add the original, I did not change a word in this, it's all structural. I'm gonna pat myself on the back for this one, this is one of our largest policies, and it was one of the ones that I was really dreading putting forward into the new format, but it actually went a lot better than I thought.
I'm quite shocked that it was adopted in 2008. I didn't think we did that tangible asset that long ago.
Yeah, no, that was the,
I thought that it was only been in the last, council
was-
type thing.
yeah, it was mandated, it had to be in place by 2009.
Yeah, you were there, you were mayor.
I didn't remember. I just thought that it was the previous council that did all that work. Because
I know we were sitting there with the accountant trying to figure it out, and that was.
yeah, I remember there was quite a.
And that's-
But that's why I was quite shocked that it was only.
That's what led to all of these schedules on the end.
I like those schedules because it kind of.
Putting that,
Yeah.
the original schedules that were in our original policy were very hard to follow, so I defined and put the bullet
Makes it
points
easy to
in so
understand.
so that you can read it very simply. And that's really all it is. There isn't a word in there that changed. It's just making it so that it's readable. On a complete side note, I gave Elsa a shot in the arm and asked him why he didn't do more policies, and he laughed at me and laughed. So.
Okay, so somebody wish to, Sue, is this one? Thank you. Any question on Sue's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay. Oh, moving on to now.
This is
Is
awesome.
there a simple explanation on this, like when we amortize it and it depreciates, does that automatically become a liability on our budget line? On our,
On our tangible assets?
yeah, intangible assets, so we rank 60 years or whatever and it decreases, does that now become a liability in the next audited statement?
Yeah, and that's now you basically take your asset, if you buy a building for $1 million, you amortize it over 100 years, your value drops on it.
I know it drops, but then as you drop, because you should be saving to replace it, does that, what you decrease it become a liability on the other?
Yes, you should, and that's the whole point of it, is you should be putting away the replacement costs, is what they're driving at. So.
And if you don't, then it
And if you
becomes-
don't, then you start getting that imbalance, and that's where you start showing your accumulated surplus, which we show for the town of Vulcan at about 20 million right now, will just slowly go away to a point where you're not viable. So we personally here in town of Vulcan, if we weren't doing any capital replacement, we're currently sitting about 20 million, and we depreciate about $1 million a year. So theoretically, for the simplest, how they put it in my accounting course that is finished was basically, if you don't do anything, you've got 20 years of life in you, based on that one. But they're basing that on depreciate. You can depreciate a street down to nothing and still use it for 10 more years. So
Oh, we are.
we do. We have. Yeah. So.
That answers your question pretty good?
Hmm?
That answers
That's
it.
fine, yeah. I don't like this being included in our.
Well, unfortunately,
When they started adding it in.
yeah, we had no choice, and
Yeah,
it was a
it's
ton of work.
Mandated.
And
I had to take a week off work just to account for our assets, and I had to tell everybody in town that I wasn't working, but I drove around town truck verifying all of our assets. It was a lot of work.
Okay, so this one here is one of those other ones that's like that school.
We started the street closure process, the council did the bylaw. It went to land titles and it identified, I'm sure you saw it on the map, it identified that little teeny triangle.
So we have
That
to-
was not identified in that, so we have to
We do it all over again.
do a bylaw to do that little teeny triangle of
This sounds like the
the,
park behind your house.
the arena parking lot.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I said.
It's exactly that. And it
And
was-
they'll come back with one other little parcel they find.
we're hoping that this is the,
Hopefully it's not the four-year process.
Yeah.
well, we're into it for a year already,
Yeah.
so. But this was identified through land titles, so it's just cleaning it up. We've been through the process before.
Okay, so somebody wish first reading? Rick?
I will.
The other Rick.
The other
Yes,
Rick,
the other Rick.
we
Any
will-
question on the Rick Howards, on the Rick Taters? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to our presentation from STARS Foundation. There are a couple of you that maybe missed this, on the presentation, there was a request made that they're going around to all municipalities, and I guess the county's been doing it for quite a few years now. The municipalities have been supporting STARS on a yearly basis, and they threw out the $2 per capita, so it would work up to $3,672 for us, if we so desired to do that. She didn't say that we had to, or, she didn't put any pressure on us, but she explained that this is what some of the other communities, and again, like I said, the county's been doing it for quite a few years, and I don't know what their rates are. She did tell the ratio, it was quite a quite a large ratio.
Some as high as $65 per
Is
capita.
that what it was? Okay. Rick?
I'd like to move that this council add it to F-26 recurring grants.
Okay.
$3,000, not the 2 per capita.
No, instead of on a yearly to recurring, it just happens every year.
So we add it to the recurring grant.
So you don't have to pass the $2 per capita right now, you can adopt it as part of the policy, and I actually have it ready, I can, if you wanted to do the policy, I can actually bring it up.
Okay.
Sure. You bear with me for just 1 second, I could actually bring the policy up, can we
That's
start?
fine, I know the policy.
We started drafting it.
Did they give any stats, how many times they've been to Vulcan?
Yes, they did, and we don't fit in the very top 15, but we're up there.
Yeah.
I know the.
Lethbridge is one of the highest.
We hear
The one that, the little bulletin that comes in the mail, I noticed that there were some that were, use it a lot.
So current policy, and this is one that's going to be brought to the next meeting, was the plan. But basically, we're gonna move it from F-26 to F-6 and amend it to add, if approved this evening, $2 per capita, and then calculated using the most recent census information.
Yeah, because it'll come up.
Because we have a federal census coming out,
Yeah.
if it adjusted, then it automatically adjusts this rate ongoing till the end of time. So because the rest of the wording of this policy has not changed other than adding the stars, if council wishes at this point, you could pass this policy the way it says, and that would include the stars.
So what's your thought? Do you want to just have them bring it back, or do you want to just, want to bring it back?
I think we should bring it back, rather than add it now. I'm fine passing it if somebody wants to move it.
Do you want to pass it and then bring policy in the next meeting?
Oh, Rick moved to.
Rick moved
No, I'm
3,000.
sorry, I apologize. Yeah, Rick moved to add to the policy.
Okay.
Or do you want to approve?
We can approve it
That's-
if council would like me to amend my motion. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
What's your thoughts, folks? It's
Yeah.
just bring one less policy next meeting.
Still gonna be a bunch.
Yeah.
Right, somebody move it.
Well, Rick moves, he amended his, to move this policy F-06. Recurring grants to organizations.
And we had agreed on this in our budget meeting?
Everything but the stars, which was the 3,000.
Okay, but the other ones.
Where all the rest of
The
them.
other ones are.
Yeah, the only difference is that it just brings it on and brings it forward. Add stars to it, that's the only difference between the two.
Next time.
Yeah.
And through this motion, we'll put words as presented, because then you've seen the policy.
Okay, so Rick moves this F-06 policy. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Okay, moving on to 11.2, rec committee's member at large.
Question. In this, did somebody resign midterm?
Yeah, we have two vacant. I think one.
I think he made one, but I could be wrong.
And
I don't-
couldn't make the time commit.
Okay, so he has 1 year left on that term, but it does, the way we,
I think he made one, but I could be wrong.
And
I don't,
couldn't make the time commit.
okay, so he has 1 year left on that term, but it does, the way we had it, you could be 2 terms in a row. So this
Yes.
is allowing him the 3rd term, it probably should.
Yes. The town currently, the two empty that we had were both 1 year terms, because we have the 3 members, right? And one is a 2 year term, the other 2 are 2 years, so that they alternate with the counties.
Yeah, but every time you appoint a new one, at the start, always gets a 2 year term, because the next,
Right, and because we're doing 2 this year that were at the 1 year term, both of them are being appointed for one-year term, so that you don't conflict with the county turnover. So you don't have 4 new members at one time.
Doesn't fall right to me. Because if he's coming in to finish, if he's finishing a 2-year term, is that what he's doing?
Yes, essentially.
So he would normally get, if I understand it right, 2 2-year terms. So he's getting a 1-year term, so does he only get 1 more 2-year term and then he's done?
Yes.
So he only gets to sit for 3 instead of 4.
Yes.
I think we could reconsider that when the time comes, if he's still there.
And if he's interested, he can just put his name forward and sit again, right? We don't have a time off period. Council can be appointed.
We don't know that, I thought we
I
did.
don't think so.
Okay,
Okay,
fine.
Sue moves this. Any questions on Sue's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried, thank you. Okay, so county's requested us to meet with them next Monday
2:30.
at 2:30 to discuss the fire department agreement.
To discuss our agreement.
How to move forward
How to
with
move
the fire.
forward.
Is this here or at the county?
County council.
I would request an evening meeting, I'll be flying back that day from Toronto.
Council, their council already set theirs.
So what?
They sent the request at 2:30.
I don't like that one either, so.
Okay, all right. See if I can change a flight.
Their original was to ask for it yesterday or tomorrow, but
See if I can change a flight.
And Paul, you're away?
George Lee's emailed me today and said that she'd be back.
Sunday.
This is again to deal with, what again?
Well, to
More
go over
important.
how we can deal with this fire agreement.
Okay.
Making sure councils are on the same page
Makes
moving
same
forward
page,
with
so.
the fire agreement.
Okay, so we wish to move this. Rick? You'll send out a,
Yes, I'll do an Outlook invite to everyone.
okay, thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, moving on to the last one. on the agenda.
I think this letter is because of the situation with Kathy Bellman, the lateness of it.
Pardon me?
The problem with the lateness of this letter is because of what happened to Kathy.
Yeah.
That
In the
had,
hospital.
no doubt that had extenuating circumstances with her, that is,
Well, the first one, when you're changing the rate, right, that doesn't change the rate of water. That, we do that every year,
Right.
right? So that's not the issue per se,
No, the issue is the change in
percent.
Business plan.
in the business plan.
Yeah.
All of the partners have agreed to a repayment program set out in the business plan.
Yeah.
As far as I can see from a town perspective, the business plan has been changed and no notification was given to council.
And I was,
And when
that
it,
was my first meeting back and I really didn't look at that.
and when it impacts the town of Vulcan to the tune of 8% increase,
Did she give you a reason why?
she stated that that's the water that we are anticipating using, so it's only fair.
Yeah, well, that's something, she doesn't have that say. Still done on the base of,
And when John and I
So-
saw it in the budget, there was no preceding number. It was just a number.
So when I contacted, because I got the budget, as soon as I got the budget, I raised the question. John was away, Paul was available, but I sent out the question, did you guys see this kind of thing? And I got a hold of Kathy like immediately, because of course this has a $30,000 impact on the town's budget, which has already been passed. So I wanted to know where the conversation was, why, if it was passed in November, us know. And how do we move forward?
I don't think there was anything passed to us saying percentage, there was dollar figures.
We were more zeroing in on the water rate.
Hmm.
Because she was talking in terms of $1.82 a cube. And we thought that was a bit much. And I've got the budget here that she showed us initially, and that's what you saw. Ken saw it earlier.
So it's basically,
On the percentages on the business plan, that wasn't even in that budget. And that comes back to the business plan. And she can't change the business plan from 72% to 80%.
so to speak to that, when I questioned her about it, they replied, and this is from the chair of the commission. As of June 2016, the commission has requested the 5-year projected water usage planning plan numbers to accurately determine percentages involved in the allocation of billing out of debentures for the members. Utilizing these projections, we have determined town of Vulcan share should increase in 2017 to 80% from the previous 72 as stated in the business plan. This percentage more precisely reflects the actual usage over the past 5 years. So what I did is I brought up, and I did give them the number of 260,000, but I based that on the average, because we have these numbers where the other communities don't. Our average usage from 2003 to 2015 over 12 years is 356,959,000 cubes. So to round it off to an easy number, because the request that I received was not, we're gonna change your percentages, it was, can you give us a 5-year prediction of what your water usage is going to be so that we can look at it for our business plan. That's the email that I got. So for the purpose, and my exact response was, for the purposes of your business plan, our projected water use would be 360,000 cubes. Because that's what the numbers over the last 13 years have told us. If you do the last, that letter then kind of states that they're using our actual usage to calculate. Through the discussion with the board, it's been determined the business plan needs to be updated in 5-year. But there was also further reference when going through the meter read since the inception of the new water treatment plant, the town of Vulcan's usage has accounted for 80% of the total, which further reinforces the commission's decision to take a more in-depth look at the percentages and how they were arrived from the 2011 business plan. So you go back to the budget, and for the last 5, if they truly did use the last 5 years, then our average is 321,000 and 87 cubes, which is 78.2%. Or even if you go back over the last 6 years, it's 317 or 78%. So they didn't actually use any of these numbers. They basically just used that email and said, this is what you're going to use. So the increases just on the loan payments alone are $3,700 a year on that loan. This is a brand new loan for $7,000, and then an increase of $2,200. We have an increase of almost $6,000, which basically comes right off Carnegie Champions. You know, they just reallocated it to them. So, my big concern is the business plan changed, and there was no input from this council.
But
in
the business
that
plan
business
hasn't
plan.
changed.
So if the business plan hasn't changed, then the percentages should
So
change.
there's no new one, like I wasn't there when that was sent in, when was that, earlier in the year?
That was beginning of January.
Okay,
Is when this
So-
came.
This all came down.
that was sent in January.
Yeah.
So when this was looked at, there was no new business plan put in place at the time, they were still going on the old one?
No,
Yeah, 2011.
they're still using the 2011 business plan, but they've identified through decisions of the board, it's been determined that the business plan of 2011 needs to be updated. It will be a 5-year plan which all obligations and responsibilities, financial and otherwise, will be set out for the members. The new 5-year business plan will be rolled out to the members in the first quarter of 2017. So if you're planning on doing the business plan, you shouldn't be changing your rates until it's done, prior to having input from your members.
The original agreement that was made when this was all put in place, what was our percentage?
72.
And so it was put into this last business plan as 72.
Yes, and I
We're
actually,
not changing that percentage automatically change the whole agreement?
It does.
it does. So
That-
here's the business plan for
So, you know,
2011.
And the bad thing about, by using actual amounts, if we put in a water restriction to our residents and lower our water percentage, then all of a sudden, are they gonna re-change the plan again? Because now, all of a sudden, we're not using as much water. Or we take and say, we're gonna raise that rate from $1.75 a cube up to $2 a cube. And now everybody quits watering. Or the third one is if you have a really rainy 5-6 years, or 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden, it changes the percentage again. So I appreciate the philosophy going on actuals, but are there actuals anticipated for the next 5, or are there actuals gonna be a year to year? So then all of a sudden your percentages change from whatever was used from the previous year, every year.
So one of the things that I had a conversation with Kathy about this is, and I have a distinct advantage because I've been part of the conversation since the very beginning when it went in place. An engineer was paid before this project got put in place to put this model together. And this model, I can go back several pages, but what they did is they did 25-year planning for, so they did a population projection, which every community was projected to have a 2% increase for and what they used is the 25 years because that was the length of the loan. That's how long we were gonna be paying back this investment. So over this 25 years, everybody is projected with a 2% increase in population, so by 2035 we'll be this. We all know that we do not show 2% growth in any community, but this way it's fair. Everybody is calculated at the same amount of growth. So then they took that with the average per capita per liters today, and that is based on the Canadian average for water usage. So they took the population, multiplied it by 500 liters per person per day, and came up with how many cubes we were going to use for the certain years. They took the amount of cubic meters that we were going to use, our peak demands, where they would need to be, how much waste factor we'd have. They basically went through this whole calculation to bring us to, page 22.
And this is all on treated water.
This is all on treated water.
Untreated or untreated?
So
On
that is
treated water. So what they did is basically, on this, the allocation of system capacity based on the 25-year design of water volume in cubic meters for the repayment of loans, all of that, raw water supply, treated water, all members. The town of Vulcan will pay 72 based on the 2035 volume. Village of Carmigay, whether this number is right, wrong, or indifferent, it's the same for everybody. We are all projected at 2% growth, 500 liters per day, per person,
To 2035.
until 2034.
Yeah, so why is
Until
it changing
2035.
now?
So that's what, without having all that background information, that's what the councils agreed to at the time. So the repayment on the water treatment end of things was this, and on the transmission line that goes down to Carmigay Champion, we don't take part in that, and this is the percentage that it was
We
paid.
don't
on
pay
that.
for that. The main
We don't,
line.
and we don't
We
pay
pay
on
for the remaining debt.
That's right. So this allocation set up in the business plan. The business plan has not changed. Council didn't get input into it. So theoretically, the budget shouldn't have changed the allocation without council's approval, I guess is the long and short.
It shouldn't.
Now, This is the last business plan right here.
This is 2011.
This is the current business plan.
Yeah, we haven't seen the 2017 one because it hasn't been presented to the board yet. But,
And it is yet to be amended. They were working on it, but that was the previous administration.
but again, the problem with it is that they've already implementing some of the proposals that are in the 2000.
The changes that may not be
Changes.
approved.
That may not be approved.
Because it has to come back to council.
Because if you go by your organizational chart, the very end of the day, the member municipalities are still have the input. So when you do a business plan, it's approved by all of the councils.
Okay, now do you have in there the allocation of debt? In there, just a comment on that you can find.
Yeah, that's
Debenture repayment.
That was page 22.
yeah, sorry. If you go further down into the reports, it does have, as part of our agreements, who pays and based on the percentages. So the water supply agreement, so on this where you put your name in, members,
So,
the payment, calculation of rate and minimum payments is Schedule E of this. So, member shall purchase and pay according to Schedule E. Sorry, this is a huge document too. E and determiner, manager, deputy, payment on. And I believe it mentions somewhere in this document it mentions the business plan for rates. Principle and practice to be applied to determine the rates that we change from time to time by way of negotiated agreement between the members as a result of discussion or order of Alberta utilities.
I just wondered if there was something in there that said, that mentioned debenture repayment.
Yes. Oh, where is that? Oh, in the, so just go right back to the top. To the glossary.
So is this what, they can do this or they cannot do this?
You can't change this.
But can they change the percentage, like is that a legitimate move on their part?
No, the
Like,
actual
can
use
they
of-
do it?
You pay for the actual use of water no matter how you use it, but that the percentage on this agreement is to pay debentures. So we're still gonna, even if we went to 400,000 or 500,000 cubes, we still pay that. But the debenture payment was based off a business plan at 72%. That's the problem.
So you pay for the water that you use, which is, but this is saying like how much you're paying on the loan.
The percentage on the loan.
Right. And they're saying that originally the agreement was we were paid 72.5, calculated from the engineer's plan. Now they're saying that, no, you guys are using 80% of the water, not 72.5, so we believe that you should pay 80% of the loan for the water treatment plant.
My question is, can they enforce this, like can they say to them, you are going to pay?
Sure, I guess we'd have to go to a judge or a lawyer and find out.
You'd have to.
I guess we'd have to go to a judge or a lawyer and find out.
You'd have to.
Because that makes quite a
You have-
difference in our,
But right now, if it's saying that we're gonna end up paying 80, knowing that the county doesn't use any water, are they paying zero?
No, and this is the problem, they projected that they're going to use based on an engineer report for, Kirkcaldy. Get the engineer report for, it was
So
originally done.
are they at their percentage of whatever was in this agreement?
No,
Below
they
that?
increased
They're increased?
1.1%.
What is it? Increased 1
0.1%.
So the champion and Carmen Gay win on this whole deal.
Yes.
Yes. they benefit from. So the debenture basically talks about the 25-year life of the system, reduced cost on 15-year amortization borrowing for the first stage, second stage. For the years 2011 to 2015, system operation and debenture payments allocated to the members should be paid directly by the members. So that's how we did that split. By 2016, the new water treatment plant will have been in operation for 3 years, and the members are expected to be drawing water from the system. At this point, the commission may consider shifting the annual debt costs to recovery through rates. So the only thing it said was, right now, until 2016, we're gonna pay a percentage of these things, and by 2016, they're hoping to be able to include that in the rate of the water, and then no one will have that 72% or 80% or whatever it is. That obviously hasn't happened. So then they put together the
What should have been in that thing
formula.
there? It doesn't have a percentage?
No, a little farther down is where the percentage came down for the first 5 years of the business plan.
Yeah, and basically, yeah, they just said it that for the repayment of
Well, it still comes down to unless there's a new business plan in place and passed and approved, you have to go off the old model.
Correct.
That would carry through.
But yeah, the old model isn't, the old agreements in place until the new agreements has been approved.
With everything that's inside.
Right, and nothing has, the new agreement hasn't been approved by any councils that we know of.
When this was discussed in whatever it was, January, were both our members there? Or not? Did that meeting?
No, we haven't had a meeting in January. The meeting is
No.
tomorrow.
No, that was last January, you said, didn't it come up?
No,
No, this,
So when did they change this percentage? When did that
November,
come from?
we were meeting in November.
They did that.
Yeah.
They changed the percentage.
And she sent me and that's the part that I was confused with, and that's why the panic email to you guys that I needed to talk to you about it.
I don't
Because
know.
when I was
Talking about
when
percentage.
I questioned Kathy about it, she said, well,
You got it there?
both your members were there, and neither one of them
I
questioned.
don't have the minutes, but there's the letter she sent
I
me.
know the letter, but do you have the budget that was given to us?
Yes. That is,
If
that,
I screwed it up, I'm gonna be pissed off.
And it does say 80%.
And there it is, yeah.
yeah, right there.
Should have caught that.
How are you gonna catch it? Because you don't, did you know,
Well, they were gonna bring it back, because this was based on old water, wasn't it? When this was passed, this was sent out with that 171 or after? Or 175?
90%.
I think it's, got
Did you
more.
have that or- Nice.
Okay.
That was passed with changes. Because in there it says $1.82 a cube. And we were supposed to be copied with the amended budget.
Yeah, this was the one we were sent 182, and then they were gonna change it to 170, whatever.
175.
And that never got sent out.
And that never got sent out until the beginning of January. And we got it and Kim got it basically at the same time.
But I got it provided as and approved by the board, which meant
But it can't be approved until we see it come through.
And this is what was sent out as the approved.
So for the basis of this conversation, for the rest of the council, why there's no recommendation on there is there's a water commission meeting tomorrow. Council would like input on these rates, then I'm hoping that council will be willing to talk to the commission about. Because from an administration standpoint, other than making everybody aware, I've kind of exhausted my needs to voice my opinion to Kathy, but of course I can't.
Seems like a backdoor way to get something done.
Well, it's disappointing that, there might be just a procedure thing that happened, but it does seem disappointing. And I appreciate the philosophy going to a rate for the debenture from what it is. So why are they going for a 5-year rate when the county hasn't used a drop of water, and tomorrow they're gonna use, water? What about their percentage? Or is there a minimum? That they made, the reason how this whole thing happened and why the numbers were used, so we could qualify for loans from the provincial government. And so they had to come up with something, so the county agreed to those numbers, but yet they have never paid them a gallon for a gallon of water.
The original payment that was originally put together by the engineers at that rate, even though the numbers are quite a bit more, it keeps a decision from an individual council, like Tom said, from making a decision that will impact other councils. So if Vulcan decided, because of this rate increase, they were going to aggressively change the use of water, and because you impact 80% of the Water Commission's usage of water, you could implement a bylaw that has very strict water rationings, where no one could use water, and you would drop your rate down. The decision that you made as a council would then affect the residents of Carmigate and Champion with higher payments. And the original plan that was put together kept that from being a possibility. The municipalities would keep purchasing their water at that, and here's the rate you're going to pay back the loans, and everybody agreed to it in 2011. Nothing is going to change for 25 years based on that.
No.
If you go to what you are actually using, it does allow councils to make decisions that impact.
How would water rationing work here? We technically have an informal one now, right?
Well, no, we don't.
It's actually part of a bylaw, we could enforce it.
Yeah, but we don't have a rationing. We have a
Environmental.
we have a leveling out so that everybody doesn't use it all in one day and drain the system completely dry, and then nobody uses it for the next 5 days. But a true rationing is that you can only water once a week, period.
Use so many
And you can only use so many cubic meters of water per year, period. That's it. And
There's fines attached.
And so, yeah, there's fines and allocations. So all of a sudden, we say, we're gonna drop our usage from 80.1, is what, or 80% what they're estimating, down to 50, because we're gonna ration everybody. Or else, the other second way of rationing is that we do not have to stick with $1.75 a cube charge to our customers. We can charge them $3 a cube, and I guarantee you, there'll be a rationing right there. All of a sudden, everybody's gonna have brown logs, because we're charging $3 a cube. And then all of a sudden, our rates, our water goes from utilizing 80% of the water, of the Water Commission, down to, again, 60-70%.
Which negative.
Then that negatively impacts Carmigate, Champion, and the county.
In that rate that engineer figured out, did he take into consideration the assets that Vulcan provided?
No, it's addressed in the business plan that was basically, it addresses it, and I can't remember exactly where it is, but it basically addresses that the town of Vulcan's contributions are this, and it's a done deal.
Yeah. So we donated the land, the old water treatment plant, well,
The reservoirs.
the reservoirs, the water line all the way to the river. We probably invested $35-40 million at least into the system.
The asset they gave out at depreciation was just over $1 million.
So we donated that to the system
To make it work.
to make it so that we covered the cost of why we didn't pay for the water line from Vulcan all the way to Carmigate. Why we have no cost allocations to that.
And on the other side of it, Carmigate and Champion then started paying into the debentures that we had on the
Right.
old system, which we still have some outstanding,
Yeah.
pretty significant amounts.
And we still do.
We
And we
still
still do. Well,
Now,
they're
currently, we're in the process of transferring those directly to the commission so that they're paid directly. But we're still going to be paying 72 or 81%. So,
It's based at 2035. I just don't understand this increase like this. Just,
and I think it's partly the procedures too, is kind of disappointing too, I mean, all our municipalities work on trying to get our stuff in before the end of the year. We just finished cleaning up some of their some errors in the commission, at the latter part of the year, in the tune of over $100,000. So we went in there, helped them clean it up, and then all of a sudden it kicked in the teeth again because we haven't had an opportunity to voice our concerns or, to our representatives, because we don't hear about it until all of a sudden it's already in place. So it's really quite disappointing, that this is the procedure.
It is probably Paul's and ours fault, because we should have got the 80%. I was paying attention more to the dollar charge
The bottom line.
than the debt repayment. I was looking at.
Now, this also, John, this goes back to a point I was making to Kim,
Mhm.
that when you change your representatives from year to year, you don't have that track history, and you may or may not have that information to go back to.
Which is why I reviewed it right away, right?
Yeah.
I got it, went through it, identified that, and that's why my first phone call was to you guys, to see if you guys had talked about it, because there may have been a simple conversation behind it. But at that point, when I found out from Kathy, there wasn't.
But the discussion on changing it to 80% was not just done at that meeting.
I'm not sure.
They must have
The
talked,
exact
they
quote-
must have talked to changing percentages previously, either just a phone call and it was done.
The quote that I got is the budget was provided to every member for feedback, and the town of Vulcan was the only one that didn't provide any feedback. That's the exact quote that I got. So,
When was the original budget handed out? Just that November?
I'm not sure.
that's what I was told.
It was in November.
Hmm?
It was in November.
That's the part that and that's why the phone call to you guys before this ever came to council, and that's why. Because I asked for that letter right away and got it, of course, after the last council meeting, so I held off. And like I said, my big concern now is the change in how to address it.
Yeah, and so if it goes through, we have two choices too, we can go back and increase our water rates and do it on like even on debenture, go on a water mill rate or a cube rate, or we can create a separate line that, will allow us to do a debenture strictly for our repayment of the debenture. So when you get your water bill, it will not reflect just how much water you use. It will reflect water use and also debenture payment to the.
And one thing that the commission could do, which was part of their business plan, and this is they could turn around and get rid of the allocation for percentage completely and go to a complete rate that covers everything. And in that complete rate, based on their calculations, the town of Vulcan will be paying whatever percent of water we use that year. So they could go that route with it as well.
The only downfall of that, though, as a commission, is that it does change. Again, you have a rain,
They
or
can't guarantee that.
they're not gonna guarantee they're gonna get enough money to cover their
Their
debenture,
bills.
because it's, the debenture portion of it is a fixed, whereas the water goes up
Mother
and down.
Nature is not.
So then,
And
at the end of the year, then you would have a supplemental requisition to cover the debenture.
Absolutely.
Either a supplementary or else, or you have a surplus or a debt, and then you have to decide.
Then
You
we
go
have
back
to
to
clean it
anybody
up
and ask
again at
for
the
it to
end.
pay back like we just did.
Yeah.
And based on, just so that council has this information when you approach them, one thing that's so hard to estimate, because we get a yearly request, how much water will you use? And by going back over the last 30 years, we looked at it, and we can have just over 100,000 cubic meter swing, depending on weather.
Oh, yeah.
So 1 year, we will use and we did, we had them back-to-back years where we used 423,000 cubes 1 year and 290,000 cubes the next year. And it was all based on weather. So for us the town of Vulcan is very unique because we use the volume of water that we do. If we estimated, and this is, if we estimated low and they set their budget for that, and that's one thing that we're trying to do, is make sure that we give them accurate numbers so that they can budget accurately. But this is putting us in a position where we'll just budget low and just pay for the extra. And that doesn't do them any good because then their rates have to
So
go
they
up.
went on one letter from you or one comment, And that's how they based their 80%?
They requested for their purposes of their business plan, what is our projected usage for the next 5 years? And I provided 360,000 cubes. Looking back on it, if I knew that our rates were going to be attached to it, I would have given them the 320. Because the 320 is the last 5 years usage. And based on the new meters being in, the prices being increased, there's going to be lower usage of residential usage of water. So I can see that, and this is a water background, when you raise your rates, there seems to be a way. People, when you first put the price increase in, everybody decreases their usage, but it'll eventually come back because people are habitual. They use the same amount of water, they do laundry on the same days, they water their lawn the same days, so it eventually comes back, but it takes a while. So when you raise, it's almost like raising fees at the golf course. We're gonna raise them, we know we're gonna lose 3 members, so we're gonna make the same amount of money that first year, but we know we're gonna get them back, so the second and third year will eventually recoup our costs. And the water works the same way. So.
So anyway, it's kind of a,
How council wants.
I'm not sure if it's enlightened everybody on it. And you're right, Paul. Maybe that's one thing that is something that we need to make sure that we relay on to the next council, that there are some committees that you should pick for a 4-year stint. The only downfall of that is that all of a sudden those 2 members for the Water Commission quit or aren't successful to be on council on the end of their term. Then you have 2 new ones in there that are green, have never had an opportunity to understand or see, they're there now, new, and for the first 2 years, they're learning. So, you sit back and say, what is it better to do? And I appreciate the philosophy, because it's been told to me by other municipalities that say, no, we give that, FCSS or FCSS might not be one, but VBDS or tourism or the solid waste and the Water Commission, all of a 4-year mandate at the very beginning of it, and they're there for the 4 years. Again, which is right or which is wrong, but here's a prime example. Like I said, maybe if they would have been there for the 4 years, the 3 years prior, maybe they would have seen this coming. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think that the 2 members that we have up there would never have seen it coming if they had been there for 3 years, because it never came up until this year.
No, I was under the wrong impression. I thought 72% was always gonna be there forever, because that was the original agreement, that was gonna stay there.
Till the
I
25
didn't
years.
even,
For the 25 years.
Yeah, and I think that's partly what when Kim approached me with it, and we kind of looked at it, I thought that the original agreement was for the whole length of the debenture. It didn't, the numbers didn't change for the length of the debenture. The water rates I appreciate, as costs go up and down and numbers change, I question the philosophy of penalizing somebody for going under what they estimate. If that's the case, why would you end up with use 5 cubic meters, anticipating you use 300 cubic meters?
So I did give council the rest of the background on that. So there is a clause in the business plan that if you use under 320,000 cubes, we have to use 90% of that. 1,000 cubes, we have to use 90% of that. So if we only use 250, they charge us for the 90% of 320 as a penalty. So that had never been done before. They charged us $10,000 this year.
they what?
Charged us $10,000 this year because we were under our allocation of what we estimated.
So is that like irrigation
But
system?
the estimation is based on
I guess.
the old 5-year plan, right?
No, this is on the actual usage rate. So at the beginning of the year, the commission phones up and says, we need an estimate of how much water you're going to use this year. And as I said, we can have a $100,000 fluctuation. So we estimate as close as possible as we can. And in 2016, we estimated 340,000 cubes, and we only used 290. So they charged us for 330,000 cubes.
So what did the county
Penalized
estimate
us 10,000.
that they were gonna use? Obviously, they estimated nothing, because they weren't using any water. They've estimated that, I assume, for the last 5 years, nothing, you know, but they penalized us. So why would we estimate, why would we wanna be kind to our own group and estimate realistically when you're gonna get penalized?
So my comment was that from now on, when that request comes in, I will just look at the lowest number we've ever been, and that's going to be our new highest estimate, because we don't get penalized for going over, but we get penalized for going under. So if the least amount we've ever used before is 300 or 280,000 cubes, that would be the safe estimate to give every year. But it doesn't allow for accurate budgeting, because if we think that we're going to use 320,
But that doesn't, the actual water usage doesn't affect the debenture repayment.
no, this is a
This
completely
is
different.
completely different one.
I understand that because you gotta estimate what you're gonna use in the town, that's fine. Cause they,
Which is really hard for us. It honestly is. It is.
Well, especially if you're gonna get
Sharp in the dark.
penalized, you know,
When you
for,
lowball it,
you know,
And it hurts the
the
commission's
commission
budget.
has to come along and say, no, we're not gonna do it $1.75, we're gonna do $2.25.
that's all they'll do is that if that volume goes down like that, the price goes up per cube
That's
right away.
And we estimate low, and we have a drought, everybody uses water, and now the commission has, with the new rate, all of a sudden has a surplus of
Huge
$500,000
surplus.
or $600,000.
Yeah, 'cause
And they
last
don't
year-
lower they won't lower the rate to,
So did other communities get hit as well because it was a wet year?
Champion, I did the estimation, and I am not sure, I would like to see, and that's something that can be asked at a commission level. I did an estimate on theirs, and they overestimated approximately $8,000, but I don't know if they were sent to go. But that's, I'm not privy to that, so I only see the stuff that comes to the town, so. I spent a lot of time putting things through the budget, how they affect us, how they affect everyone else.
It's a big kicking that took us.
Town of Vulcan, through the Water Commission over the last year, has been affected $170,000 that this council didn't get any input on. Other than,
Just on
yes,
this last year?
yes, we'll pay.
oh, we paid that.
120,000 in shortfalls, and then 30,000 in the budget, and then the $10,000 penalty.
So that 120 was from previous budgets not being proper.
But it was the water commission budgets that weren't correct,
Correct.
not ours.
No,
yeah.
no,
That's
but
right.
but we paid our share,
But we have to pay
But
our
we had to
share,
do it
we have to
backwards,
pay
yeah.
our share of that.
and we chose to,
And we paid it at 72%.
yeah. And we chose to pay it all in one lump instead of,
Yes.
you know.
That was the decision that was made in November of
Yeah.
last year.
So do we have any recourse here at all right now?
No, just voice our concerns to our two representatives, and then when it comes back, and we get an opportunity to go through the 5-year business plan, and, you know, we can pose the business plan if we so desire for the areas of concern, or approve them, you know, depending on what we so desire, and then our two representatives get the opportunity to voice our concerns at the organization.
If I can, one of the issues with voicing the concerns is the commission instead of taking their hat off and
No, and I appreciate that, you know,
representing.
and Kim and I have had that huge discussion, and I think everybody in this room that has heard it, about when you walk into some of these organizations, you have to take your town hat off, and leave it at the door, and do what's best for the commission. And we, as town council, have to do what's best for our ratepayers. And if our ratepayers believe that, you know, their rate's gonna go from 72.5 to 80% for whatever reason, and we don't feel that it's comfortable, then we have to go to our representatives and say, we disagree with this philosophy, and, you know, this is the way we believe it's gonna be. And then if we don't still agree with it, then we have to get legal opinion on what direction we can go to correct that issue. And, you know,
Council could send a delegation to their meetings
Yes.
as well.
so,
To not
so I mean, there's, you know, 3 or 4 things. So I mean, I guess all we're just trying to say is that it does seem, you know, when you take out your loan at your bank, when you borrow to build your home or buy your home, you anticipate it's gonna be fixed at a percentage for a period of time, then you're either gonna renegotiate it, or most of us, I think, anticipated it was for the full length of the debenture, because of the way the debenture works for us as a municipality. Not that it's gonna change 5 years in.
And if it is gonna change, you're gonna have to improve it.
So,
And when that business plan gets revised, it still has to come back to this council as a whole for approval.
that's the way we perceive it. I'm not saying that's the way Twin Valley perceives it. They might believe that they're, you know, and we'd have to go back through with a fine tooth comb on, you know, how to oppose the philosophy, if that's what council decides to do, or get out of the commission, if that's what has become a.
But we got into it thinking it was the best option,
I assume so.
yeah.
So the estimated water you gave them was how much?
For this year, it's 320,000 cubic meters, and for the 5-year purposes of the business plan, it's 360,000. And just to look at the budget, that's because the 5-year average was 321, the 6-year average was 317, and the 12-year average was 356.
So you gave them that.
I gave them, you know, it took 12 years worth of, you know, I was looking at the 10, 12-year range.
So are we tied to that 360, like is it feasible that if you think it's 320 this year, it could be 320
Well,
the next year, and every year it'd be 320?
Knowing that they were gonna tie our debenture payments to that, I would have given them 300.
Yeah, well, I get that, but
So-
we are not tied, we don't have to average 360
Nope.
in the course of those 5 years.
No, but if we use that figure though, and they put it in there, and we're low and get penalized for it,
That's under the yearly one, that comes out here for water usage, this is right here, 320,000. That's how they base how much money they're gonna make. And so if we don't meet 320,000, Champion doesn't meet, or Carbon doesn't meet 31,000, and Champion doesn't meet 39,000, then they'll get penalized. And see the estimates, and here's where we were, and this is what throws out their budget. In 2016, they estimated we were gonna use $564,000 worth of water, and we only used 441. So then they penalized us $10,000. If you go by the same model, they estimated Champion was gonna use $70,000 worth, and they only used 54. So this year, they're gonna do 68. So I went back and figured out the calculations of what they had estimated at $1.71 a cube, and what they actually used at $1.71 a cube.
Yeah, so they did the debenture is on the 360, not the 320.
And based on the information that they requested at the time, like I said, she sent me an email in June of last year that said, for the purposes of our business plan, what is the estimated usage for the town of Vulcan for the next 5 years? So I used 10 years worth of information and said 360. I was not told, for the purposes of revising our business plan to change your rates, I need your estimated water usage, because if that would have been that, I would have went very accurately through the last 5 years,
Yeah,
since
even
the
with-
plant was in operation, because the last 5 years since the plant has been in operation, we haven't enforced any water rationing. We have, or any water restrictions. We've changed all the meters in town. We've, so we can give accurate numbers over the last 5 years. I did the last 10 years because it included those catastrophic weather things that,
And regardless, even if we stayed with the 320, which is realistic, it still would have jumped our payments based on, but even you wouldn't have,
oh yeah, at 320, so if we go to the loans,
320.
based on 320, we're 78.2, which is an increase of 6% instead of 8
If this,
for the actual.
if this
usage
next
of the-
business plan comes out, we're tied to 80% for 5 years, regardless of what our usage is.
If it's approved. Based on a number that they took from an email without providing the proper information for background.
Or misusing the information given.
That shouldn't have, it
Use it
shouldn't
for
have
different
happened.
purposes.
Because Champion and Carmen Gaze is obviously done on their estimates as well. But,
We don't have.
Vulcan counties, like they're estimating 20,000 cubes.
They're not gonna use it.
The 14 residents that they plan on adding aren't gonna use 20,000 cubes. Not if 300 are using 29,000 cubes.
Well, we're not privy to what they actually used, I guess, unless we go back and look at.
Yeah,
What did
from
they
a
use?
board member you guys are, and from the public you can request that information. I didn't for the purposes of this because I'm,
Yeah, Carmen Gay's saying they're gonna use, I guess.
you can do the calculation, you just take the 24,000 divided by $1.71, it gives you the amount of cubic meters.
Well, anyway,
But that's,
it's kind of disappointing, but I guess that's the downfall to a degree of commissions or foundations and
Yeah.
boards and.
It's, yeah, I guess that if they're gonna do that and change the debenture repayments, that should have been part of the new business plan. And until such time as that page, you shouldn't be changing debenture repayment. All you were being asked for is what is gonna be your water usage like you are every year, kind of.
projected for the purposes of the business plan. That's exact, I can provide the email. That was sent. The question that was asked.
Okay, any further questions or thoughts or?
What time is your meeting? What time is your meeting? 9 o'clock? I can get, if you stop by before, I can have that.
Were you on it the last year too, the whole year? Or we both ran it?
No, I was on the last.
When did you guys talk about possibly passing a business plan?
Well, I don't remember actually talking about a business plan particularly then. But I must confess, as I said, when I got up here, I was overwhelmed about what all the stuff you had.
Yeah, I think it was middle of the year, type thing, June-ish. It needed to be updated. It needed to be updated.
Yeah, I know probably needed to be updated, but you can't start implementing a new business plan prior to passing the business plan, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think that it would be, I would think there's an opportunity for legality on that one, which would tie it up in both commissions and the town's finances and going into legality on it. And I'm not sure that's going to be a direction that I would ever recommend council anyway.
You recommended we don't?
I would
Just stay with the
recommend-
old business plan?
No, I would recommend that we take this to legal counsel, without,
It's very
further,
divisive.
further discussions and.
Are you planning to be there, Ken?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
If council would like to attend, they can. Sure. this was the template for the agreement, and I can't find a signed agreement here on the premises for this, for the town of Vulcan.
So we own no official copy of any agreement.
Not on file. We can find.
I suppose prior to the business plan being set, you can say we plan to have some sort of a water restriction program and our usage will be 300. That's what we anticipate now with our new water restriction. Business plan hasn't been passed, you could do something to that effect.
Well, even in the business plan, it doesn't restrict the municipality of setting the rates, and it doesn't restrict the municipality in implementing water restrictions. I'm not saying that, so.
And council could straight in go ahead and say that, and I have no issues with that, administration provided a number with council's approval, because they did. And if it's council's wish that go in for the purposes of that allocation for the next 5 years, we want to put it in at 290,000 cubic meters a year, that's council's decision. Like I said,
But based on the last 5 that this group has been on, it's only been 320, correct? Would be, the estimate would be 320,
Yeah.
right?
on the last 5 years, yeah.
Just
I-
the last 5.
If I was to do the last 5 years, I would do an estimate of 320.
So
If I look at 15 years worth of records, I would do 360.
360.
But that's just my own, but like I said, if they were truly looking for that, for the purposes of amending the rates, that should have been approved by council, honestly it should have. I would have brought that to council for your approval, because the next council or whoever,
So they never did ask you it was for a business plan?
they mentioned that it was for the purposes of their business plan. If I had access to my email on this computer, I would bring it up, but I can't. I can go turn on my office and print off a copy if you like, but it is, I can have it tomorrow morning before they.
Yeah.
It was never identified that it was for the purpose of raising the rates or adjusting,
Changing the
changing the rates.
Yeah, changing the dimension, that just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Considering, especially if they added, what, 3.449 for population and 35, and that's, I mean, I realize everybody's numbers are the same, but realistically, doubling size, in 15 years.
Yeah, it would never happen, but the calculations were the same for everybody, and that's
Yeah.
what made it.
That could be fair.
Because when I looked at it originally as the public works foreman, and they did a projection of 600,000 cubes for the town of Vulcan by 2035, I laughed, I said, there's no way.
Can we move this in camera? That'll be a contractual thing.
Yes, for legal purposes, you
I'd like to make a motion to move this item into camera.
Okay, so John,
Move this item into camera.
okay, so John moves that we go into camera to further discuss this issue. Any questions
for
on,
purposes of legal.
any questions on John's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? It's carried. Okay, we're in camera.
Okay, let me know when I can come back in,
Sure.
if somebody would mind.
Yeah, you betcha.
Thanks.
Anything left to do?
We have no.
No, but we might have a motion coming out.
Here, you don't need to sit around, I can take the rest of it, thank you.
Thank you,
Shut
Sean.
this off again?
Huh?
Did you shut that off?
Yes. Just press the button. Yep. Commission attending
I
council.
can know if you
Further explain the
drove or not.
correspondence in January.
Pardon me?
I didn't know if you drove or not.
Yeah, I saw Richard as I came in, well, I guess you won't be riding home with you.
Okay, so we have a motion to, and Kim will read the motion, and then hopefully we can find somebody to move it.
Okay, so the proposal is for administration to draft a letter requesting a delegation from the Water Commission attending council meeting to further explain the correspondence submitted January 5th, 2017. And that has they will respond to the letter that was sent to council that
Changes.
was added to the agenda for your review.
So does that sound,
You send the letter and then we'll have to deal with all the discussion that may come out of that.
So I will stay tonight and try to draft a letter that will be ready. I'll stay tonight and draft a letter that will be ready for you by 9 o'clock.
okay, so Sue makes this motion.
Send it to both Paul and I in case one of us forgets to print it off.
If you want, I can get it on letterhead and you can just pick it up on your way to the meeting. Quarter two. I'll
Okay.
just stay and draft it tonight.
Any questions on Sue's motion?
Paul made.
No, Sue made the motion.
Sue made the motion.
Any comments or questions on Sue's motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, it's carried unanimous. Okay, adjournment. Rick, all in favor?
You can't just email it on letterhead?